Now, on the flip side, let's not despair because the saints have this same power. Do you know what one saint? We hear this about Satanists, right? But do you know that there was saints like this? And I'll tell you one that might surprise you. John Paul II had the ability to know when the Eucharist was consecrated. Not in the evil way like the Satanists, in the good way. Now, let's look at the next slide. John Paul II declared the year of the Eucharist, saying, "Stay with us, Lord." I want to tell you a story about John Paul II that was amazing. His absolute outpouring love for Christ and the Eucharist, they said, actually became a problem for his team when he would travel. Listen to this. In fact, the prefect of the papal household often warned the organizers of papal events to make sure not to allow John Paul to pass within view of a place where the Eucharist was, because then otherwise he would enter the chapel for long periods of time and the entire schedule would be thrown off. Like if they had the schedule down to the minute and then he spends 30 minutes in adoration, it would throw the whole schedule off. So these organizers would try to avoid this. It's kind of a bittersweet situation, right? All right, now, in 1995, Father Michael White in Baltimore was invited to organize the Pope's visit. John Paul II was coming to Baltimore. Now, one of the organizers told this Father White, quote, "Listen, in the place where he's staying, keep the hallway door closed when he comes through your building, because he doesn't know that there's a chapel and in there the Eucharist. If he finds out, he'll spend a lot of time in prayer." They weren't criticizing him. They were just saying, we got a tight schedule here. And we know our beloved Holy Father. He's going to end up stopping. So, sure enough, they come through the building. When it was time to leave, John Paul walked through that hallway door. And they're like, uh-oh. Now, down this corridor, there were tons of doors lined up in the hallway. And John Paul starts walking down the hallway. They said, "Father, Holy Father, we'll go out the back side." So he's just simply walking down the hallway. Dozens of doors on both sides. All of a sudden, and they led to rooms and bathrooms, and they were all closed. So you didn't know what was behind them, if it was a bedroom or a bathroom. Now, when he passed by a certain door, he stopped. This is John Paul. And he stopped at this door, and it was the door to the chapel. And in the chapel was the consecrated Blessed Sacrament. They say the story was he looked at the door, not even opened it yet. And it was the door to the chapel where the Eucharist was. And he looked at Father Tucci, and he shook his finger at him. And without saying a word, he shook his finger and nodded his head like this, like, "Don't you do that to me. You purposely did this to me." So he knew what they were doing. They didn't allow him to know that the Blessed Sacrament was there, but he knew it. Isn't that incredible? That's a saint. And so he shook his finger in his head. And Father White recalled, he said there was no way he could have known the Eucharist was in there, but he did. There were dozens and dozens of doors, but he knew exactly where it was. And then the Holy Father did this also when he then ended his visit in Baltimore at St. Mary's Seminary in Roland Park. Father White again was astonished that the Pope, who had never been in that building, instinctively walked right in and turned right to the chapel. He knew exactly where to go. Amazing. Now,